You know that classic Silicon Valley story, right? A couple of friends, a brilliant idea, all starting in a cramped garage that somehow turns into a billion-dollar company. Well, what does that legend look like today? In a world of insane rent prices and an absolute obsession with AI, it's morphed into something else entirely, the hacker house. So let's get into what that really means.
And that quote from Anantsika Manvi really gets to the heart of it. At its best, the modern hacker house is a launchpad. It's an environment that's literally engineered to help ambitious founders take that huge, scary first step.
So, what is this modern version of the startup garage exactly? Let's really break down what's become this huge cultural phenomenon.
Okay, so the simplest way to think about it is this. A hacker house is a co-living space that has a mission. You're not just there to find a place to sleep. Nope, you're there to dive headfirst into a community of other builders, to speed up your own ideas, and, maybe, just maybe, build the next big thing together.
And this slide really nails the difference. A normal apartment, its mission is just to give you a roof over your head. But a hacker house is built for something completely different: innovation. The tenants aren't just screened for their credit score, they're vetted for their ambition, for their skills. The whole reason for being there shifts from "I need a place to live" to "I need a network to accelerate my life's work." It's a totally different ballgame.
And that value proposition, it is so powerful. It's this dream of crazy high productivity and a community you just can't find anywhere else. Let's take a look at what pulls the best and brightest into these kinds of spaces.
The promise is just incredibly appealing, right? You've got communities like Arcadia and Berkeley that are trying to create this serene island of pure focus. Residents there say they get back 2 to 3 productive hours a day just from the environment. It's all about living with these exceptional people, having these mind-blowing conversations over dinner, and getting plugged into a network of VCs and leaders that would normally take you years to build.
But for some people, the dream is even more specific. Look at this number, just 3%. That is the tiny, tiny fraction of all venture capital funding that goes to female founders. It's a staggering gap, and it's exactly what inspired specialized communities like Founder House, an all-female hacker house right in San Francisco.
And this mindset is so important. As the co-founder Miki Safronov Yamamoto puts it, the point isn't just to build a space for women. The point is to gather the absolute most talented founders you can find, who just happen to be women, and give them the network they need to crush it. The focus is always on ambition and talent, period. And here's the thing, it really works. Powerhouse, another community in SF, has a wild 70% acceptance rate into top accelerators like Y Combinator. Their residents are out there raising millions of dollars. One guy even turned down an offer from OpenAI so he could build his own company out of the house. So yeah, these are not just places to live. They are proven, high-powered launchpads for success.
Okay, so that's the dream. But behind all those success stories and the vision of nonstop innovation, well, there's a much, much grittier reality. The hustle often comes with a whole lot of hardship.
It's one thing to talk about networking with VCs and late-night whiteboard sessions. It all sounds great, but what's the day-to-day, totally unglamorous truth of living in some of these places? Yeah, this quote from a former resident of a house called the Negev pretty much says it all. Nerdy geniuses definitely fits the dream. But bunk beds and roaches, that paints a very, very different picture.
And it wasn't cheap either. At the Negev, this was your monthly rent. For what? A single bunk bed in a tiny shared room? People were paying a premium price, not for comfort, but just for access to the scene, even if the conditions were terrible.
The reality in some of these places could be seriously grim. We're talking showers so small you can barely turn around, with doors hanging off the hinges, bunk bed ladders literally snapping in half, constant cockroach problems. And some of these houses were on really dangerous streets where residents had to deal with open drug use and fights outside their windows. And you can't forget the emotional toll, watching your friends and yourself go through the absolute meat grinder of startup failure.
And here's where it gets really dicey. When these places are run poorly, they cross a dangerous line. Some are basically illegal short-term rentals, just packing as many people as possible into unsafe rooms. Not only is that hazardous for the people living there, but it also yanks long-term housing off the market, making the local housing crisis even worse.
So, you've got this huge gap between the dream and the nightmare reality. What is it that separates a thriving, amazing community from a dangerous, illegal one? Well, it turns out there's actually a blueprint for getting it right.
A successful hacker house doesn't just happen by accident. It's designed, it's architected.
It all starts with defining the culture, the mission, before you even think about buying a property. Then, you have to be super rigorous about vetting residents for cultural fit, for what they call builder intent. And finally, you have to make it all official with legal agreements. That's how you set clear rules and protect everybody.
In this vetting matrix shows you what that actually looks like. It goes way, way beyond a simple credit report. You need to see proof of work, a GitHub profile, a portfolio. You need to have a cultural interview, and a lot of times that's with the people already living there. And you absolutely have to get formal buy-in on legal and security policies. As you can see, curation is everything. It's the whole game.
This right here, this is the secret sauce. The person running the house has to stop thinking like a real estate investor and start acting like a community chief product officer. Why? Because the product isn't the house itself. The product is the curated experience, the culture, the productivity of the community inside it. If that product, the community, falls apart, your best tenants are gone and the whole model just collapses. So when you strip away all the hype on one side and the hardship on the other, what is a hacker house really? Is it just a glorified, overpriced rental, or is it something more?
I love this quote about Arcadia because it just captures the ideal so perfectly. A tech monastery. It's a place of intense, quiet focus, but combined with this really deep, intentional community. It's not a party house, and it's not some anonymous apartment building. When it really works, it's this incredible blend of a monastery and a startup accelerator. So that brings us to the big question. Is the hacker house the future of innovation, or is it just a high-risk rental scheme in disguise? You know, the truth is, it's a really powerful idea, but its success all comes down to one critical choice. Is your goal to build a real community, or is it just to collect rent? The answer to that question is what decides whether this whole model becomes the future or just another cautionary tale.